Hey guys, tonight we drift down a black ribbon of water while the moon paints the Nile in silver. Palms whisper, oars dip, the boat creaks like an old door that still knows secrets. Warm air smells like dust and dates. You stand by the rail and watch your reflection bend and slide. The cliffs on the far bank loom like giant teeth. They look hungry, which is a fun thought at bedtime. We are going to step where kings sleep. We are going to open doors that sand tries to seal again every night. Quick reality check. If you try any of this for real, you won't survive the ladders, the lawsuits, or the smell of ancient resin in a small room. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Please tell me your city and the local time in the comments. I love seeing our little map light up. Now, dim the lights, turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The ferryman nods and you step aboard the creaking skiff. The wood is smooth and warm. Rope thumps the post. The river takes you in like a slow breath. You keep your voice low. The night opens wide and deep. You move toward the west bank, the side linked with endings. The sun dies there each day. Old stories say the god Ra sails down into the night and fights his shadows till dawn. That thought makes you hold the rail a little tighter. The cliffs ahead are pale and cut like folded linen. Somewhere beyond them lies a dry bowl of land where doors open into rock. We set a few rules for the night. Breathe slowly. Use the soft light. No yelling. No touching painted walls, even if your finger feels lonely. Suppose you hear a hiss, freeze. It is probably the wind. It might be a lizard. Either way, it does not need your opinion. And if your sandals squeak, you try to pretend it is part of the soundtrack. That is joke number 1. A warm breeze carries the scent of river plants. You hear fish jump. A bat flickers past like a hand fan. The ferryman wears a loose shirt and a calm face. A small cat curls near the bow, tail tapping. Cats work boats here. They keep the grain sacks free of nibbling guests. The moon throws a path across the water, and you follow it like a lazy rope. A plain fact drifts in with the night. The Valley of the Kings sits on this western side, above today's Luxor. It holds tombs of New Kingdom pharaohs, including the small but famous one of Tutankhamun. You picture the cliff faces and the secret doors cut below them. Rock stacked upon rock. Silence stacked upon silence. Historians still argue whether the valley was picked for one main reason. Some point to El-Kern, the peak that looks like a natural pyramid. Others say the rock is the reason. Soft limestone for cutting. Hard capstone to lock it in. Could be both. Choices rarely have one door. Your light shines on a jar tucked under a bench. It is glazed deep green. It smells like honey and spice, a fun tidbit for your pocket. People here once wore small wax cones on their wigs. The cones were full of perfume, like myrrh. Heat would melt the wax, and the scent would slide down through the hair. Sounds odd now, but it is smart. Slow perfume, soft glow, less bug drama, too. That little note is joke number 2. The ferryman points with his chin. Far ahead, the cliff step like stairs. The bowl that hides the royal valley sits behind them, hidden from the river. You imagine the first teams that walked out there. They scouted wadis. They tapped stone and listened. They picked paths that the sun forgot. You draw your jacket close, even though the air is warm. You pass a low shoreline garden. It looks like ink at this hour, but you smell mint. You see a palm basket, a water jar, a sleeping dog who flops an ear when you drift by. The ferryman smiles and taps his chest. It is fine, his eyes say. The river watches. The river keeps. Shore sand crunches under the prow. The ferryman drops a plank. You step off. The bank is cool and damp. Your light finds a narrow path between thorn bushes. A beetle moves a ball of clay with epic focus. You give it the right of way. The stars hang low, like pins in dark cloth. The cliffs rise, pale and blank, keeping their thoughts to themselves. You pause and look back at the river. It flows on, patient as time. You think of the big idea we carry. We walk into the west like the sun to see how people set a stage for forever. Some say the river crosses funerals in a strict ceremony. Others think carts rattled in over desert roads. Historians still argue whether the last journey was always by boat or only sometimes. Either way, they came. Doors opened. Doors closed. You check for Wi-Fi out of habit. The West Bank gives you 5 bars of moonlight and 0 bars of internet. That is joke number 3. You lift your bag. You follow the cat, who decided to join because cats do what they want. Ahead, A dark road bends toward the cliffs. The air turns dry. Sand brushes your ankles and then falls away, shy at first touch. You keep to the rules. Breathe slowly. Step lightly. Mind the hiss. And listen. The stone has a way of speaking if you let it. You follow the cat. Trots ahead with its tail up like a tiny flag. The path climbs from the river and curls into pale hills. Dust hangs low. Tastes like chalk. Your sandals whisper. The night is quiet enough to hear that whisper answer back. The ground turns to broken limestone. Sharp flakes glint in the moonlight. Your light shows a dry stream bed. It looks like a freeze-frame river, all stone and no water. This is a wadi. In the wet season, sudden floods roar through. The rest of the year, it sleeps. You step into the channel and feel cool air slip along it, like the wadi keeps a private breeze. The walls rise on both sides. They lean close, then pull back, then lean in again. Every turn hides the next turn. The sand under your feet acts like a slow wave. You see your print. You take 2 more steps. The wind sighs. Your print fades. The wadi erases you in real time. It is like the desert has a delete key with a sense of humor. Joke 1. You stop and listen. Pebble skitters ahead. The cat pauses and looks back at you as if to say, "Keep up, human." You move on. The path splits and then joins. You notice small stacks of stones at some bends. 3 rocks, then 1 on its side. Waymarks. Some may be new. Some may be old. People still line paths with quick signs you can read with tired eyes. A fact to tuck in your pocket. This lonely bowl of hills hides over 60 royal and noble tombs. The valley is split into 2 main parts, east and west. Most famous tombs sit in the East Valley. A few kings rest in the West Valley. The number is neat on paper. Out here it feels wild and tangled. You reach a rise and see the shape of El-Kern, the peak that looks like a natural pyramid. It sits like a watcher over everything. You do not need a guide to spot it. Points at the sky. Soft limestone lies under it. Harder rock caps some ridges. The mix makes a maze of seams. Those seams are what the tomb makers wanted. Good stone to cut, strong stone to hold. Historians still argue whether the very first king to use this place was Thutmose I or if the seed was planted earlier with Amenhotep I. An official named Anini wrote that he oversaw a secret tomb for a king. And nobody saw, nobody heard. That boast feels like a whisper left in the stone. Secrets love this kind of land. You walk on. The air dries your throat. You sip from your bottle, and the cool slides down like sand through glass. The wadi bends north, then west, then opens. For a moment, you stand on the lip of a broad bowl. It is not big. It is not green, but it pulls at your eyes. Cliffs press in like walls. There is no line of trees, no river, just pale slopes, shadowed clefts, and empty light. You feel small and awake. Why here? There are a few answers. The rock, the shape of the peak, the way the valley sits away from the river and away from the eyes. Guards could block the narrow entrances. Floods could hide traces. Dry air could keep bodies safe for a very long time. All of that together makes sense. Plans like this are never the only reason. You know this from choosing snacks. A bat dips past. You catch a smell like hot stone and flint dust. Small black streaks coat some walls. This is desert varnish. Wind and microbes polish it for ages. Turns rock skin dark. If you scratch it, the stone below shows pale. People used to draw lines on it with a fingertip or a pebble. We do not scratch. We leave it alone. But it is a quirky note from the land itself. The rocks hold their own notes. You edge along a ledge. It is safe, but your calves may want to write a quick complaint letter to management. The path drops to a flatter floor. Here, the dust is fine like talc. Every step floats a ghost of your foot, then the ghost disappears. You think of workers who walked this way in the dark before dawn. Torches would have smoked and snaked. Sand would have swallowed their prints, too. The valley knows how to keep a secret. Your light touches old chisel scars on a boulder. Not a tomb, just a rest spot where someone sharpened a blade. The sound of metal on stone must have bounced here. Clink, clink. You imagine the rhythm. You hear a far laugh that is actually a fox. It barks once and dashes away. The cat pretends not to care. A small, odd thing makes you smile. Some later visitors carved their names on the cliffs in Greek and Latin. Ancient tourists. They hiked in to gawk at royal doors like we do now. They scratched notes like, "I was here," and prayers to gods with new names. Their graffiti rides the same wind. Time has layers like this dust. You keep to the left edge of the wadi where the gravel holds better. The right side sinks like flour. A thin trail of pale stones leads onward. A guide laid them out this week. A guard did years ago to show a safer route. Paths shift with each season. A summer flash flood can dump boulders where a flatbed used to be. That is one reason entrances hide fast when work stops. One good storm can seal a gateway with mud and stones. It is nature's lock, no key needed. You pass a low ruin made of stacked chips of limestone. It looks like a tiny fort. These little shelters show up along the way. Shade huts, tool caches, a place to get out of the noon sun. You put your hand on the wall. It is cool on the side away from the moon. You pull back. No touching, remember. The rule stands even for rocks that look like chairs. Joke 2. Calm fact hums in your head. The primary building phase here spanned the 18th, 19th, and 20th dynasties, roughly from 1550 to 1070 BCE. Names like Hatshepsut, Thutmose, Seti, and Ramesses left marks under these hills. Not every mark was wanted. Some were paths cut by thieves. Some were trails patrolled by desert police called medjay. Their job included watching these wadis. You imagine their night eyes and steady steps. Historians still argue whether the funeral teams always used the same formal route into the valley or if they switched paths to confuse onlookers. Some say boats ferried coffins to a canal near the cliffs, then carts took over. Others picture a long, slow line across desert tracks all the way from the city temple. The land allows both. The wadi keeps its mouth shut. The path narrows again and funnels you between two shoulders of rock. A cold draft sneaks out from the shadows ahead. That draft means open space. A larger wadi meets this one just beyond. You push a little faster without thinking. Your light picks up faint lines on the ground, two ruts side by side. Old cart marks or rain cuts. The dust does not say. A beetle trundles past, rolling its small prize. You let it go first. We share the road tonight. The cat stops to consider the beetle's life choices, then moves on. You mirror the cat's calm. You settle into the pace. Step, breathe, step, breathe. Each step falls and fades. The wadi edits you out, then invites your following line. You like the rhythm of that. At last, the bowl opens wider. Cliffs step back. The night above feels bigger. The peak looms like a hand-drawn triangle. Somewhere under your feet, doors lie in the rock. Some are famous. Some are still only hints on a map or no map at all. You feel a curiosity tug like a sleeve, also your stomach. You forgot snacks. The desert invented no vending machines. Joke 3. You stand still and let silence settle on your shoulders. This is the right place for secrets. Dry, quiet, hard to reach, easy to guard, hidden in plain sight. Sand slides over your toes and then steps back. It is as if the valley says, "Welcome, be careful what you ask." You spot a low rectangle in the rock. It looks like a shadow that forgot to move. Steps drop into it, all chipped and tight. Sand has built a little ramp over the first two. You brush it aside with your boot. The cat slips past you and vanishes down the dark throat with VIP confidence. Cool air breathes up. Your light finds a lintel scratched with quick marks in red. Mason notes, arrows, numbers, a joke about who owes whom a beer. You duck. The stone kisses the top of your hat. You shuffle down, shoulder first, because the walls pinch in like a squeeze hug. Your feet count each step. 1, 2, 20 more. The corridor bends. It drops. It bends again. The path feels like a question that refuses a straight answer. You like that. It means a person planned this with care. Not just to fit the hill. To confuse anyone who does not belong. The floor lists a little, then levels. Your beam catches a thin line across the floor. It is as narrow as a rope. You kneel. It is a seam between slabs. The joints are filled with pale plaster. Smooth, almost invisible if you rush. A thief might miss this and pass by. Under some seams like this, later teams found small plugs and hidden doors. Not dramatic traps, just quiet tricks. Floors that are not quite what they seem. You tap with your nail. The sound is firm. You do not pry. We keep the rules. Your light runs into a wall. No, not a wall. A door that does not look like a door. It is rough masonry, stacked and plastered to blend with the passage. You move the light low and slow. There they are. Round blobs of mud that once sealed a rope tie. Pressed into each blob, a neat stamp. A jackal sits on 9 bows. That is the mark of the royal cemetery. A mainstream fact for your pocket. Tutankhamun's first doorway had seals like these on its plaster. 2 doors, both sealed. That is how the team knew it had not been opened since ancient days. You lean close and see a tiny swirl frozen in the clay. A fingerprint. It sits clear as a wave curl. A quirky note. Some seals hold prints like this. Experts say a few belong to younger workers, maybe teenagers, based on the size and pattern. Apprentices did real work here. They left little touches behind without knowing. You step sideways along the blocked doorway and find a cut in the right wall. A short elbow passage hides there. It dives down and ends in a square shaft. Your light drops into black. The sides are cut sharply and clean. The bottom is far below. A well shaft. It waits like an open mouth. The cat peers in and flicks its ear. You keep a safe step back. Your knee tingles at the thought of missing by a toe. What is this for? It has more than one job. Catches sudden floods that roar in from a storm. It gives work crews a place to dump chips. It also slows down anyone who barges in without gear. The ledge is narrow. The far side is tricky. Historians still argue whether the main aim was to stop thieves, to tame water, or to mark a holy line you must cross with care. Could be all 3. A wall can wear many hats. You prefer a soft beanie. That is joke 1. A plank bridge sits now, set by caretakers. You test it with a toe, then cross. Your light fades and swells as you move. The sound changes, too. In the next stretch, the air feels thicker. You whisper hello without thinking. The word comes back as a handful of whispers, one after another. Delay. Bounce, a soft stutter. The chamber ahead answers you like a cave with good memory. You edge under a low beam of rock. It is natural, left like a rib for strength. You duck again under a later brace. A scar tells you a wood prop once stood here. Only the stain remains. The cat takes the high road. Of course, tail up, feet silent. You breathe through your nose. Dust smells like chalk and old linen. Your light slides over tall side grooves cut in the stone. They run straight and true. You picture a giant slab dropping down those grooves. A portcullis block, locked into place after the burial. Granite slides in, then wedges tight. Portcullises like this appear in grand royal tombs. Seti I's long tomb had several. You cannot move those without the right tools and sufficient time. And snacks. You forgot snacks, remember? Tragic. Joke 2. You come to another built door. The plaster is long gone. The fill behind it looks like a dry river of jumbled rocks. Not pretty on purpose. Hard to clear fast. You aim your beam along the top line. A faded seal mark clings to one corner. The jackal is almost gone, but the 9 bows still bow. You can see how guards in the old days could tell if someone chipped in and tried to patch it. The seals would break. The mud would crack. The story would show. You shuffle on. The corridor throws a dogleg left, then right. A blind nook opens and ends. No reason. There is a reason. Sometimes a false corner hides the real turn. Sometimes a straight run would run into a bad vein of stone, so builders bent around it. Both things can be true. Plans are like rivers. They shift to fit the land. You find a low niche near the floor. It holds a jumble of fine dust and a few dead flies. Not poetry, but data. A sneak might blow out a torch here and leave it. The soot spot on the ceiling marks years of breath and flame. You hold your light still and listen. A drip ticks somewhere deep. Not water, just a flake falling. The tomb breathes in its own slow way. You step into a chamber. The ceiling lifts just a bit. Your voice wants to rise, but you keep it low. The echo here has a rounder tone. If you hum, it wraps the note and feeds it back like a shy friend. Priests once chanted in rooms like this. The sound could pool and swirl. Did they plan that on purpose? Or did the shape happen to sing? Your guess is as good as mine. Either way, your shoulders loosen. The room feels calm. Look down. The floor dips, then it looks flat again. But the flat part hides another seam. If you had only a flicker of light, you might miss the line and step wrong. Here, the surface once sat on a fill that could be pulled out to make a pocket. Not a fall to doom, just a place to slow you down, to make you stop and think. Traps in these places are mostly patience traps. You mean to rush. The tomb says, not today. Your beam snags a faint red grid on a wall. Builders drew those to set straight lines for cutting and painting later. We are not doing paint yet. We let it wait. Still, the ghost of a plan is here. A survey with chalk and string. A mind on the wall. You pass a spot where the corridor once continued, then was filled and smoothed. Why block your own work? It might be a decoy, It might hide a change of plan, or it might seal a shaft used to haul debris. You tilt your head at it the way the cat does when it hears something only cats hear. Fact hums again. After the last door closed, teams tidied the path out. They wiped footprints in the outer hall and smudged tool marks. They stamped fresh seals. Some even set stones back into ruts to erase cart lines. A clean exit hides a busy night. If you have ever tried to leave a kitchen spotless after baking, you feel this in your bones. That is joke 3. The air cools another notch. The corridor pitches down steeply. You put a hand out to steady yourself, then take it back. No touching. We know the rule. Your toes find the edge of one more step, and then another. The echo fades. The world turns to your breath and the soft scuff of your sandals. The cat stops and looks over its shoulder. Its eyes shine like 2 tiny moons. Forward, it says without a word. So you go, past one more trick, under one more beam, tracing a path meant to test the living before they meet the quiet. You lift your light and the world turns to color. The walls wake up. Blues bloom. Gold winks. The ceiling above you becomes a night sky. Tiny stars dot a deep field like sugar on velvet. Your mouth opens a little, then you shut it. Dust is not a snack. The air is cool and dry. The plaster is as smooth as an eggshell. A thin white ground lies under the paint. You see it where the color chipped long ago. Artists worked on dry plaster here, not wet. They mixed minerals with gum from trees. Then they brushed the mix on in gentle layers. That is a simple fact from this place. No fancy fresco, just patient hands and steady breath. Your beam slides to a band of blue. It glows like a quiet lake, Egyptian blue. The recipe is old and clever. Sand, copper, lime, heat. It is the first artificial blue we know. Those grains here are older than your great-great everything. Here is a quirky note you can keep. If you shine a certain light on Egyptian blue, it gives off a red glow you cannot see with your eyes. Cameras can. It is like the paint still says hi in a secret way. You lean back to see the ceiling better. A woman's extended body arches over the room. Her skin is dark and filled with stars. She swallows a small sun at one end. It travels through her belly, comes out at the other end, new and bright. That is not the sky. You follow the curve and feel your neck stretch. Your brain whispers a wow. Your throat whispers, ow. Art does that. A row of little boats floats along one wall. Each ship carries a god. Each hour has a scene. Snakes twist. Spirits stand in line. Gates rise and fall. You count the hours and you get 12. This is a guide for the night. Many tombs here show the Amjuet, the Book of the Gates, or both. They are travel maps for the soul with keys, names, and stops. A solid fact, year after year, stone after stone. You come close to a figure with a hawk's head. The crown is high and neat. A sun disk rests above it like a warm coin. The lines are strong and straightforward. Red lines show under the color in some spots. That is a draft. The master corrected in darker lines. You see the build of it. First a plan, then a refit, then color. Then gold is a god that needed to shine. Tiny stars dot the ceiling in rows. Some are neat dots, some look like flowers, some drift in groups. Historians still argue whether these star maps match real sky charts or if they are more like a holy wallpaper that says night in a sure way. A bit of both. The truth often sits between 2 chairs and smiles. Your light catches a tight set of tiny signs by a doorway. Hieroglyphs run in smooth columns. Birds face one way. Eyes look back at you. Read right to left, they seem to watch your steps. Read left to right, they lead you on. The text whispers in your head even if you cannot sound it out. Say these words, open that door, give this bread, drink this water. You feel the chant like a heartbeat. You spot the 4 sons of Horus on a small panel. They stand like tiny guards. One has a jackal head, on a baboon's head, one a falcon, one a human. They protect the soft parts of the body, the liver, the lungs, the stomach, the guts. Not glamorous, very important. The jars for those organs sat close to the coffin. When this room was sealed, it held the tools forever. The walls have the instructions. Your light kisses a strip of gold. Gold leaf, so thin it lifts at one corner and trembles. Your fingers itch to smooth it. You do not. No touching. We respect the rules. The gold clings to a glue of resin and gum, catches even your small light and throws it back like a tiny sun. You think of the journey in the dark. These gold bits must have looked like sparks to the priests as they walked out with their torches. Your cat flops down and becomes a furry star map on the floor. It yawns. It owns the room. You edge to a panel with a balance scale. A feather on one side, a small heart on the other. A dog-like guard waits by the beam. A scribe with an ibis head holds a pen. You know this scene even if you do not know the names. The heart must be light. A good life makes it so. The feather is the measure. Kindness is math here. That idea ages well. You spot a glitch and it makes you smile. A small handprint hides near the baseline. It is faint. It may be a slip in wet plaster, a fix made by a helper, maybe a child who carried water. You will never know, but it makes the room warmer. Bodies did this, not magic. Work. The cat pads over to a black stripe painted on the floor. It sniffs. It steps over with care. You step over too because why not? The stripe marks a sacred boundary. It tells you the next area is more holy than the last. It is nice when the flooring does the labeling for you. You wish your kitchen had that kind of clarity. Snack zone, in big letters. Joke 1. A long snake loops across a panel with teeth bared. Beside it sits a small blade and a knot sign. The message is clear even if the words are old. Cut the bad snake. Tie what is loose. Names for danger are here. Names for help are here. If you can name a thing, you have power over it. Spells are names that do work. You tilt your light to the high corners. You see tiny blue dots, not paint flakes. The ceiling builders mixed in mineral dust to fill pits and sharpen the night effect. It is a small trick. It works. The room feels deeper than it is. Your brain leans back. Your body sways forward. You catch yourself and pretend that was a cool dance move. Joke 2. You take a slow breath. The paint smells like nothing now. But imagine the day it was new, gum and resin plus sweat and lamp smoke. Warm color, wet brushes, quiet chatter. Do they paint by oil lamp? Or did they angle polished copper mirrors to bounce the sun into the rooms while they worked? Historians still debate whether mirrors were truly effective or if lamps were the primary aid. Your vote goes to both and snacks. Always snacks. You notice a thin strip of text that reads like a caption. It names each figure. It lists titles. Lord of Truth, Lady of the West, Opener of Ways. You whisper a few names to feel them. The air in the room feels like a choir that never stops. Words hold here. They perch and wait. At the end wall, a niche glows pale. It frames a doorway shape painted like a reed mat. The mat ties are neat. The knots look ready to pull. It is a fake door, but it leads just the same. It gives the dead a place to walk through and take the offerings left outside. Bread, beer, onions, meat. You picture a basket at the threshold. You hear a polite thank you on the way back. You nod. Your stomach joins in rude and loud. You forgot snacks. Again. Joke 3. You take one more slow spin. Blues, golds, reds, greens, black hair, lined eyes, sure hands. The rooms talk. They do not shout. They list the steps. They say the names. They mark the hours. 12 pieces of night, laid down like tiles. You feel sleepy in a good way. Your shoulders drop. Your breath matches the measured rows of stars. You raise your light toward the next doorway. The guide keeps going. You follow the line of the feather. You step where the text suggests, and the painted night hums softly over your head. You ease past the painted feather and follow the corridor up. The stars on the ceiling fade behind you. Real stars blink outside. Night air slides in and tastes like stone and salt. The cat stretches, then leads you toward a notch in the ridge. You step through and see small mud brick homes tucked into a slope. Lamps glow like tiny suns. Voices murmur, a baby fusses. A donkey answers with the confidence of a trumpet. This is the village that builds the quiet rooms you just walked through. People call it Deir el-Medina now. Long after these workers left, a monastery stood nearby. The old name was Set Mot, the place of truth. The crews called themselves servants in the place of truth. That is a solid fact. Feels right when you say it. A narrow street runs like a spine. Houses sit back to back. Doors face the same way. Inside, rooms are small and neat. A low bed, painted niche for a god. A grindstone, a basket of onions. The smell of baking sticks to the walls. Your stomach cheers. It is late. Stomach, calm down. The cat rubs your shin and suggests food diplomacy. Joke 1. You slip into a courtyard where men shave heads with bright copper razors. Lice do not like bare scalps. Sweat cools faster that way. A woman hums as she grinds grain with a stone. The sound is a soft rasp, steady and low. A boy carries water jars. He tips one and laughs when a frog hops out. A girl chases a chicken and does not win. You smile, work, but also life. A scribe sits in the shade with a reed pen behind his ear. He has a little board on his knees. On it sits a broken pot shard. An ostracon. It is today's notepad. Cheap, everywhere. The surface holds ink like a champ. He writes the day's notes. Who showed up? Who did not? You lean in. Absent. Bitten by a scorpion. Absent. Brewing beer for mother. Absent. Making an offering. Try those reasons on your boss. Char will love it. Or not. Joke 2. Workers gather as dawn grows. 2 teams form. Left side. Right side. Gang of the tomb is what they call themselves. Each has cutters, carvers, plasterers, and painters. They hike into the valley together. Guards walk with them. The medjay watches the paths. The scribe counts heads. He knows the jokes, the feuds, the secret crushes, the best way to spell scorpion with one eye closed. You crouch by a heap of more ostraca. Not all are notes, some are sketches. A cat in a fine dress leads a goose on a leash. A mouse pours wine for a lion. It is a satire. Animals play with people. People get the hint. That quirky art sits by shopping lists and love poems. The village has a sense of humor and a soft heart. Rations arrive in sacks. Grain is pay. Bread and beer are daily fuel. Onions, fish, and dates join the party when the gods smile. A plain fact hums here. We have the first recorded labor strike from this place. In a king's 29th year, rations ran late. The crews sat down in the temple yards and said, "We are hungry." Officials argued. Then they paid up. The notes survived. You can almost hear the grumbles fade as bread hits hands. Historians still argue whether the workers lived here full-time with tight guards or moved back and forth to families across the river more often than we think. Some days it looks like a locked camp. On other days it seems open with visits, errands, and market trips. The truth may have changed with rulers and seasons. The village feels both tight and loose at once. You stroll to a small shrine at the street's end. A cobra goddess coils on a stela. She is Meritseeger, she who loves silence. People here praise her. They fear her too. She guards the peak. She forgives, but only after a lesson. Some villagers left oops stones for her. I did a wrong thing. I was sick. She spared me. You run your finger near the carved signs, not on them. No touching. We keep the rule. Another altar bears the face of Hathor. A sistrum hangs by a rope nearby. Someone will shake it later and sing. A craftsman palms it now and cannot resist a tiny jingle. He puts it back fast, like a kid who tapped a drum in a quiet shop. You nod. Same. You peek into a house. A low shelf holds little faience amulets. Eyes to watch, knots to bind. A cat statue sits on the sill, carved smooth. A boy rolls a bead on his leg and looks bored. His sister makes a tiny cup out of clay and then crushes it, pleased at the power to undo. The scribe waves you over. He unfolds a roll of palm fiber. The papyrus is brown and crackly. He reads a line that says, "We are in need. Give us our rations." His voice is plain, not angry, just tired. He tells you the march went to several temples. He tells you the guards walk too. He tells you nobody wants trouble, but empty bellies push hard. The cat listens with serious whiskers. It is the union rep now. Joke 3. You follow the crews out toward the desert edge as the day warms. The hike is routine. 8 days on, 2 days off. That rhythm is set by the old 10-day week. It is steady like the grindstone. On work days, tools clink in shoulder bags. Copper chisels, stone hammers, red ochre for layout lines, cakes of plaster wrapped in cloth, a small basket for the day's bread. Your mouth remembers the painted bread on the tomb wall and sighs. Real bread wins. You pass a yard where a man tests a chisel on a scrap block. Sparks jump. He holds the edge to his lip to feel the bite. He nods. Good. Another man shapes a brush from rush fibers. He chews the end and fans it out. The cat tries to help and is fired from the brush shop at once. A gust of wind kicks up. Dust whips the lane. A woman yanks a reed mat across her doorway. A child squeals and runs after a hat that flips like a turtle. Laughter follows. Someone calls, "Close the jars." You remember the desert's delete key from the wadi. The village fights the same key every day and still writes its lines. You climb a low rise above the houses and see small tombs pricked into the slope. These are for the workers and their families. They are not huge. They are tender, bright paint, careful words. A cone of baked clay sticks above a door with a name on it. A dog bone lies in the dust. Someone's friend waits. You feel that. Calm thought sits with you. These people build royal dreams by day. By night, they develop their own. They practice a pose on a shard before they paint a god. They carve a small figure for a child before they carve a king. The skill moves both ways. That is how craft works. It grows in homes as much as in halls. The scribe closes his roll and stands. The teams file into the wadi. Their sandals whisper, their packs sway. The cat retakes the lead, like it knows every bend by heart. You fall in line. The village fades behind you. The place of truth hums like a hive. The day turns hot. The tools grew ready in the dark. Now stone will sing. The song of tools fades. The valley hushes. Heat rises like a slow hand. You smell resin, sharp and sweet, as if pine and honey decide to hold hands. The cat hops onto a low block and becomes a small sphinx with whiskers. You step aside. A line appears from the wadi, white linen soft in the glare. Men walk steadily, shoulders square. They carry boxes, jars, and folded cloth. A priest in a leopard skin sash leads them. Another holds a roll of papyrus. He chants in a low voice. The words are old and kind. Two women follow, barefoot and with their hair loose. They sway and sing the names like a soft wave. Grief here is music, not noise. Perfume cones melt on wigs. You catch frankincense, myrrh, and a dark blend called kifi. Smells like raisins, wine, herbs, and dusk. People once burned it at night to calm their minds. That little note curls in your thoughts. Your shoulders drop a bit. The cat blinks slowly, like a tiny incense burner with paws. Joke 1. The wooden shrine arrives first. Gold leaf trembles on its edges. The heat makes resin weep in tiny tears along the seams. Hands set it down on a low sled. Ropes creak. Sand gives way, then settles. After the shrine comes the canopic chest, a heavy and square object. For lids sit like small heads on top. Jackal, baboon, falcon, man. They watch in 4 directions, as if checking the corners of the sky. A clean bundle follows, linen, layer upon layer, cool white. The body inside is quiet and careful. It took time to make this peaceful. A plain fact rests here. The whole mummifying work took about 70 days. Drying with natron, anointing with oils, wrapping and prayer. Slow is kind in this craft. You notice narrow strips of linen with red ink on them. Little notes show order and place. Hands wrote those during wrapping so the team could keep track. It is funeral labeling. It beats your last move, when you packed a box marked miscellaneous. A king cannot afford a miscellaneous shelf. Joke 2. A priest steps forward with a small adze. He touches it to the face, then to the chest. He taps the tool on the mouth and eyes in a gentle pattern. The opening of the mouth. The idea is simple and profound. Give the senses back. Make breath and sight work in the forever fields. Historians still debate whether this touch falls on the mummy, a statue of the spirit, or both, and whether the tool must be one that cut the tomb's door. The moves look light and steady either way. The chant wraps the moment like linen wraps a limb. A scribe kneels by a basket and pulls out small blue figures. Shaptis, little helpers for the next world. Each holds a tiny hoe or a bag. Each has a line of text that says, "If I am called, I will say, here I am." You count on him. 10, 20, 100. The pile grows. For a king like Tutankhamun, there were more than 400 Shaptis, plus overseers with whips tucked at their belts. That is a big crew for a big job. You pick up one with your eyes only. The glaze is the same Egyptian blue you met on the ceiling, but now it looks like water in your hands. Some Shaptis are made of wood. Some are stone. Some carry the names of days or weeks, a quirky note to tuck away. One batch found in a cache had spelling quirks and smudged lines, like a rush job before a deadline. Even royal teams sprint sometimes. The store goods arrive next. Bread in tall cones, jars of beer sealed with clay, wineskins labeled with the year and the vineyard, dried figs, fat dates, a leg of beef, ducks wrapped tight. You keep it gentle in your head. Food is love here. It sits in neat rows on reed mats. A clerk checks each jar with a quick mark. The cat inspects the meat with great interest and is politely moved along. Boards slide, doors open. The line carries furniture wrapped in sheets. A bed with lion feet, a headrest shaped like a moon, boxes of sheets, shirts, and sandals, a chair with arms polished smooth by long hands, a game board with its pegs tied in a little sack. You picture the owner's smile when boredom knocks on the door of the field of reeds. No one loses the pieces. Every bit is tied. You wish your board games were as calm as this. Joke 3. Boat models follow. Long hulls, tall prows, oars painted in neat rows. A small cabin sits near the center. You can almost see sunlight flash on a sail. Real ritual barks once carried the coffin in processions. Models keep the motion going in the next life. The idea is clear. Travel never stops. Paths are water. Boats are keys. A priest with a jackal mask kneels by the doorway. He pours oil in a thin line and draws a knot sign with the tip of his finger. A lector reads each step from his roll. Open, purify, recite, seal. The words pace the room. No rush, no drag. You can feel the hours stack like baskets in a booth. You notice 2 small bouquets set on a tray. Dried lotus, cornflower, and willow leaves woven together. The petals curl but still keep their color. In one royal burial, a collar like this rested on the chest under the top lid. A garden saved for the road. You like that. Summer held in a circle. Someone lifts the corner of a cloth near the face, then sets it back with care. No peeking. No fuss. A thin disc sits near the chest under the wrappings. It is a heart scarab. It tells the heart to be kind during the weighing. Do not tattle on small slips. Speak true but be gentle. You nod at that. You would like your heart to remember the same. A quiet debate tugs at your ear. Historians still argue whether the whole hands-on work happened in a clean tent by the river and the tomb only saw the last day, or if some washing and anointing took place right here on certain nights. Words in old texts say tent, but clay floors and drains in some spots near the valley hint at more. The cat yawns at both options. The cat votes for places with shade. Hands slide the inner coffin into a larger coffin, then into a stone box. Nested safety. Ropes creak. Wooden sleds bump along greased runners. The floor is dusted with powdered stone to help things glide. You press your palm to your chest to echo the slow work with your breath. In. At the chamber door, the team pauses. The 2 women sing again. Their voices rise, then drop. They call the name to the corners. Names matter here. A name is a doorway, too. The lector sprinkles water. He shakes a sistrum once. The note hangs in the cool air and trembles like a silver line. They carry the last baskets inside. Towels, razors, coal. Little jars of oil shaped like ducks, a mirror of polished bronze. You catch your face in it and look like a shadow that forgot sleep. The mirror glows anyway. It does not judge. Last checks. The scribe counts the shabti one more time. Overseers in their own box. Workers in there. He nods. He seals the lids with wet clay and presses the jackal stamp. The mark is neat and smug. If it cracks, someone has poked where they should not. Not our topic yet. We mind our lane. At the threshold, a small bowl of natron sits. The priest dips his fingers and taps the floor. Purify the path. Then he rubs the powder on his hands like chalk before a climb. He whispers to the stone. The stone listens. The team backs out step by step. They do not turn their backs until they are in the hall. Then they bow. They pull the reed mat across the door. They stack blocks. They smooth the joints with plaster. The adze rest. The papyrus rolls up. The basket handles sigh. Outside, the heat softens. The incense line thins and lifts. The valley breathes again. You feel tired and clean at once, as if you helped fold a huge, essential blanket. The cat stretches and decides you did fine. You whisper thanks, but you do not quite have the words for it yet. And the quiet keeps them safe. You linger in the cool hall after the last seal is pressed. The plaster dries to a pale skin. Your light slides along the door jamb. Red ink bites from the stone like a fresh cut. The signs are sharp. They warn in simple terms. Do not enter. Do not disturb. They call on gods by name. They wish bad luck on anyone who breaks the peace. It is not Hollywood. It is housekeeping, but with teeth. You test a word with your lips. Your voice stays low. The sound hangs, then fades. Beside the neat columns, someone scratched a smaller line in a rush. It reads like a threat and a prayer in one. Who comes here to harm? A crocodile will take him in water. A snake will take him on land. You step back from the jam. You like both water and land. You prefer to keep your ankles. The cat flicks its tail and walks across the threshold line with a strut. You follow slowly. The floor looks flat, but your toe feels a shift. A stone slab tilts a hair under your weight. You freeze. Your heart grows loud in your ears. The cat hops to a ledge and gives you a look that says, "Finally watching your step?" Joke 1. You edge back and try again with one foot. There is the tilt again, soft but real. A caretaker once set up a safe test panel here to demonstrate how a false floor can function. The slab sits on a pivot. A shallow pocket hugs the space below. Nothing deadly, just a delay. A thief runs and trips. He drops tools. He makes noise. Guards hear. Or time hears. Dust does the rest. You kneel and shine the beam along the edge. Fine grit trickles down the tiny gap like sugar. The slab rocks back, then settles. Clever. It is not a movie trap. It is a patience trap. Like the wells and the heavy portcullis blocks you met before, it slows hands and feet. Tells you to think. You can almost feel the builder's smile under the dust. A fact to keep in your pocket. Royal tombs here did not hide spikes or poison darts. They used stone, doors, and distance. Portcullis slabs, plugged corridors, well shafts, decoys. That was enough. It still works now. You are moving slowly, and the room is safe because you are slow. You stand and read another line of bright red text near the corner. It is neat and legal. It calls on the gods to defend the owner's name. It warns you that breaking a seal is breaking a promise. Not all tombs carried these words. Many did not. Private tombs in these hills used sharp lines more often than royal ones did. That balance matters. The idea of curse is old, but the famous doom sentence on the door of Tutankhamun's tomb? That line was not there. A mainstream fact. Newspapers made that line to sell papers. You breathe in and smell old resin and chalk. Your nose stings. Your eyes water a little. A dusty truth sits in that sting. When closed rooms open, air stirs. Old dust wakes. Mold wakes too. Spores ride the light. People with weak lungs can get sick from that. Some get very sick. It is not magic. It is biology with a flair for drama. Historians still argue whether spores and stress explain the early deaths tied to one famous dig, or if it was just bad luck stacked in a short season. The numbers lean one way. The stories lean another. Stories win headlines. You run a finger in the air like you're writing a name. You do not touch the wall. Rule stands. No touching. Even a fingertip can lift paint or spread oil. Remember the gold leaf that trembled? It needs only a breath to go missing. Your fingers stay in your pockets. They pout. They get over it. Joke 2. You see a small painted jackal beside a knot sign. The jackal sits bright and sure. The knot binds the door. The message is simple. Watch tie guard. A worker with 3 hours of sleep and sand in his shoes would get it. A thief would get it too. You think of the Pharaohs' curse craze. The year is etched in your brain like a doodle. 1922. A small doorway opens after ages. Seals hold. The first peep shows gold. A few months later, a sponsor dies. Papers shout. Friends with colds and random aches are added to a list. The line grows like a snowball without a hill. But the man who opened the tomb with his own hands, Howard Carter, he lived many years after. He died in his bed. The swift wings line, the lights going out, the scream in the night, those make neat copy, not neat facts. A quirky note flaps in from the edge. People say a cobra ate Carter's pet canary on the day of the find. The cobra, a royal sign, the uraeus, on the king's brow. Oh, spooky. Did it happen? Maybe. Cobras live here. Birds are snacks. Nature does not read press clippings. It just does lunch. Joke 3. You crouch by a patch of cracked plaster near the base of a wall. Someone patched this long ago. Maybe in the old days. Maybe in the last century. The crack follows a seam where 2 blocks meet. It demonstrates how even a stone can move with the passage of heat and time. Traps shift too. A tilting slab today is a fixed slab tomorrow. That is why caretakers put in safe demo panels. The real trick is knowledge. Show, not shatter. You lift your light to a corner you almost missed. A tiny clay amulet sits tucked in a crevice. It is dark with age. It looks like a little figure with arms crossed. Pocket shabdi? Or a charm to guard the room. It is too early to tell. You leave it be. You do not touch. You do feel a slight warmth in your ribs, like a candle. These rooms were loved. They still are. You whisper a last look at the red lines. The words do not foam at the mouth. They ask for an order. They ask for quiet. They ask for respect. When that fails, they promise the simple things that scare us all. Pain. loss, being forgotten. A crocodile and a snake are just the masks for that fear. You turn, and the cat leads you back over the slab. You step on the edge this time where it does not tilt. You pick your feet up like a dancer with shy shoes. You breathe slowly. Your chest eases. Your smile comes back. Out in the hall, dust hangs in shafts of light like lace. A fly drifts and decides you are not interesting. You agree. The desert keeps its delete key, presses it gently. A footstep fades. A cough fades. A story fades unless you tell it. One more fact to anchor you. Within the shrines of that famous small tomb, there were protective spells and guardian statues. They were meant to shield, not to doom. They did a good job until humans with pry bars came along. Humans are the only trap that beats all traps. You tug your scarf up over your nose and taste salt. Mold and dust do their small work. Your eyes sting again. You blink, and the stars on the painted ceiling ripple a little. Egyptian blue might still be whispering its secret red under the beam of science, but your own eyes want water and a nap. You pat your bag for snacks and find air and hope. Classic you. You and the cat both sigh. Fine. Later, you give the door one last nod. The jackal on the seal looks smug. It has a right to be. The lines still hold. The name still rests. You turn toward a darker path that bends away from the main hall. You feel the tug of another kind of danger. Not from curses, from people with quick hands and long nights. The kind who run faster than doors can close. The kind who do not read red ink. You press your light to your chest until the shape warms your hand. You follow the cat. The stone whispers the next step. You follow the cat into a darker bend of the wadi. The wind hushes. The moon ducks behind the ridge. 3 men step out of the shadows and crouch. They wear plain linen. Their sandals are wrapped in cloth to muffle grit. One carries a small lamp cupped in his palm. Another has a bag of tools that clink like nervous teeth. The last one scans the ridge with slow eyes. He points. They nod. You keep your light low. You taste stone and old fear on your tongue. They press reed mats against a wall to catch chips. They tap, then pause when a gust moves. They let the wind hide each blow. Smart. The cat sits with its back to them, as if it is not interested. It is exciting. You kneel beside the cat, breathing through your scarf. The tap-tap starts again. Soft, patient. A line appears where plaster meets rock. The leader slides a copper chisel into the seam. He twists. A flake pops. They stop. Listen. Tap again. They know the signs. A faint hollow under the sound. Cooler breath on their cheeks. A tiny hiss from an angry crack. They widen the slit as carefully as a surgeon. No rushing. No hero moves. A hand slips in and feels the backside. The cat flicks an ear. The wall gives. A brick loosens. A low exhale. It is like watching someone open a safe with their fingertips. They slide through feet first. The lamp follows, shaded. You follow the cat to the edge and peek. The men pad down the corridor you walked earlier. They step past the false dip. They skirt the well. They duck the low beam. They know this map, maybe too well. You think of the village and the strike notes. Not every worker stayed a saint. Hard times bite. Night offers teeth. A solid fact anchors the room. In the late years of the New Kingdom, theft was common. Officials under King Ramesses IX wrote extensive records of robberies and trials. Scribes measured holes in doors. They listed missing rings and amulets. They weighed gold by the deben. You can almost hear the scraping pens. The 3 find a sealed block. They test the mud with a thumb. Dry. Old. The jackal stamp smiles. They chip at the corner and pull out a pry stick. The plaster powders. A stone slides. Air moves with a paper dry sigh. They squeeze in. You keep your breath steady and your hands at your sides. No touching. We keep the rule even in pretend. The cat walks the top edge like a circus act. Balanced. Pleased. Inside, the men work fast. They open boxes. They shake linen. They hunt the hard stuff glued to soft things. They are after gold, silver, and gems. They are not after stories. You see the careful path of the burial team become a tangle. Wrappings shift. A painted eye stares from a fallen mask. You look away and count your breaths. 3 in, 3 out. The lamp light jumps. Someone whispers a name. Someone curses the tight knot in a lid. They pull small pieces first. Ear caps, toe stalls, a ring caught in a fold. They work quietly, but they are not silent. No one is quiet in a room like this. Cloth rustles, copper scrapes, powder sighs. One man stuffs things into his belt and pats it like a worried baker who fears losing his bread. You almost tell him to label with red ink like the rap team did. You do not. Joke 1. Then the scene blurs. Time slides. You sit on a reed mat in a bright room. Daylight slaps the walls. A row of scribes writes at speed. A man kneels with his hands bound. He speaks fast. Sweat runs down his jaw. A guard taps a staff on the floor. Sand jumps. The room smells like dust and old beer. The clerk reads names. He says which tomb. He names who went with whom. He lists what they took. He gives the weight of a ring and the weight of a mouth. The kneeling man repeats the list without looking up. You hear the words, "We broke in through the small hole. We found the lady. And we took the gold that was on her." The room shifts. The air goes thin. You stare at the clerk's hand. It does not shake. Historians still argue whether the confessions in these records were pulled from men under pain or were plain truths told to get a lesser sentence. The words read clearly. The story around them is fog. You sit very still. You do not like the picture in your head. The judge speaks. The punishments are harsh. We keep it PG. You look at the floor and count the reed lines in the mat. The cat watches the ink dry. You wish it were only a story. It is not. The door creaks. Another case. This one feels bigger. A mayor and a vizier glare at each other. One says, "Your guards failed." The other says, "Your men lie." The scribes blink hard and keep writing. Offices have drama, old or new. That is joke 2. The wind shifts and time slides again. Years roll like a sand wave. The world outside cracks. Wages dry. Temples hold more power than kings. The Medjay foot patrol thins out. The delete key of the desert keeps pressing. Tomb faces crumble. Thieves learn every bend. So the keepers make a choice. You follow a night convoy through the wadi. No chance now. No public lines. The team is small and quick. Priests and workers move by starlight. They carry kings. They carry queens. They carry princes who never ruled and mothers who held a country together with both hands. Each body is wrapped again. Each one is labeled with ink dockets on the linen. The dockets have dates and names of high priests. Black ink, red ink, year marks. They read like post-it notes on time. They reach a cliff face near an expansive terrace. A narrow shaft drops like a well. They feed a rope through a wooden frame. They lower 1, then 2, then 10 coffins into the dark. The air is cool and tight. A man whispers a prayer to Merit Seeger, the cobra of the peak. Another ties a knot and pulls it tight with his teeth. You feel the rope burn in your palms, even though you are only watching. The cat peeks over the edge and blinks. "Hard pass," says the cat. The shaft they use will one day be called TT320, Deir el-Bahri's hidden cache. Dozens of royal mummies will rest there for ages, kings like Seti and Ramesses. Queens with flower collars are still bright. A bruised warrior from Thebes with a broken skull will lie quiet at last. Another cache will rest inside a later king's tomb, KV35. That chamber will hide princes and ladies in a cool side room. A steady fact, solid as the rock. A quirky note lands with a slight grin. In the 1800s, long after all this, a local family found that deep shaft by accident. Some say a goat fell in. Others say a donkey slipped. The story changes like the wind. The family kept the secret for a while and sold small things in the market. When the truth spilled, the place filled with men and rope and loud orders. The quiet ended. The mummies rowed boats to Cairo. The story rode every paper. The goat, if there was one, got no credit. Joke 3. Back to the night work. The priests are not stealing. They are saving what they can. They rewrap torn bandages. They slide a new shroud over the old. They tuck the mask back into place. They scratch a docket on the linen with the date and the name of the one who did the work. They want the kings to keep their names. That is the main law here. Keep the name. Keep the breath. Historians still argue whether those temple teams also stripped gold to fund the state while they saved the bodies. Some coffins were found with missing or swapped parts. Did the thieves do that before? Or by the savers in a time of need? The ledger of that choice lies quiet. The linen remembers only dates and hands. You crouch by a stack of bundles ready to go down. One has neat laundry marks from a temple store. Another carries a patch sewn from a reused sheet with a hymn written on it. Practical and holy at once. You like that balance. It is very human. By dawn, the shaft is whole. The rock mouth closes. Stones stack. Mud seals. A smear of desert varnish will hide the line in a year. The valley edits the scar out, slow and kind. The team walks away with dry eyes and sore shoulders. They leave a short prayer scratched on a stone for the cobra on the peak. Forgive what we could not stop. You keep your voice inside your chest for that one. You look up to the cliffs. The peak sits like a patient pyramid. The cat presses against your shin. The air smells like cold rock and the last ghost of incense. In your pocket, a shape of the jackal seal curls and sleeps. You feel the lesson settle. Traps can fail. People fail too. But hands can also carry, mend, and hide with love. The night took. The night also kept. You trace a thin path that forks away from the main bowl. The slopes hush the wind. The sand looks like cream in the low light. A sign stone sits at a bend. The cobra is scratched on it. You nod to her and pass. The cat trots ahead, tail like a flag. The wadi opens into a softer valley. The cliffs feel kinder here. Locals call this place Taset Neferu, the place of beauty. It fits. Doors hide in the rock like shut eyes. One doorway pulls you in. Steps drop. Cool air rises. Your light lifts and finds a queen. She stands tall in pure white linen. Her face is calm. A vulture crown hugs her hair. Gold lines glow where the brush kissed the plaster. Hathor reaches to her with a long hand. The cow-eared goddess smiles like a friend at the door. You know her name, Nefertari. Her tomb paints sing like clear bells. Many call this room the most beautiful in the land. That is a plain fact. The blue here feels deep as a pool. Stars dot the ceiling in neat rows. The queen plays Senate on one wall like the game board you saw earlier on a shrine. A scribe god leans in to read her name. He looks pleased. You grin and try not to take it personally when a painted goddess gives you side eye. You get it. You are a guest. Joke one. You step closer and see fine red guidelines under the paint. You see corrections. A foot moved, a hand redrawn, a crown made taller. The artists you met in the village did this, their touch still hums. The cat sits under a cartouche as if it owns the throne. It is not wrong. Historians still argue whether this valley was initially reserved as a royal children's playground and later became the resting place for queens, or if wives and children shared it from the start. The old name does not settle it. The graves are mixed. Some hold little ones. Some have great ladies. The sand keeps its answer under that quiet delete key you know so well. You step back out and follow the ridge toward a low spur. Small chapels climb the slope like shells on a shore. These are the tombs of workers and their families. The doors are small. The care is enormous. The painting shows husbands and wives sitting together. They hold a lotus flower and breathe its scent. A harpist plays for them. A servant pours beer with a careful hand. You can hear the soft beat of that song. Live well. Be kind. Rest easy. Inside one, a tiny room holds red columns and simple gods. A shelf shows a family statue. The wife's arm curls around the husband's shoulder. Their son stands between their legs, small and proud. On the wall, a man says, "I made this for my father and my mother." He lists his job in plain words. Scribe of the tomb. He is not shy. He is not grand. He is very sure. A thin cone of baked clay sticks from the door lintel. A name is pressed into it. Those cones mark the spot like a mailbox flag. You picture the scribe pressing wet clay with both thumbs, then looking up to see if it is straight. It is a little crooked. It is perfect. The cat rubs its face on the cone and makes it its own. Classic cat. A quirky thing sits in a niche. A small jar holds a folded sheet covered with neat lines. It is a letter to the dead. Help us. Someone took a cloak. We want it back. Also, the fever hurts. People wrote to loved ones after they passed and asked for help with sick kids, missing stuff, and grumpy neighbors. They set the note in the tomb like a message in a mailbox. Please advise. You have thought of texting a grandparent like that. You did not. You might now. Joke two. You tilt your head and listen. A harp song floats through your brain like a breeze. The words are old but clear. Make holiday. Wear fine linen. Do not be sad. None comes back. Those harper songs live in some tombs here. They lift the chin. They are soft and brave at the same time. The paint around them shows cakes and beer. You nod. The afterlife starts with a picnic. You step out, and the air smells like hot thyme. The ridge drops to a flat. A path swings north in your mind, like a ribbon on a map. You follow it in a story step. The land changes color. A vast plain opens. Statues rise and fall. This is Saqqara on your quiet tour. It holds an animal city under the sand. You peek into a cool tunnel lined with niches. Each niche holds a bundle shaped like a bird or a cat. Neat wrappings cross in little diamonds. Some bundles wear painted faces in black and gold. They look both cute and serious. They are gifts, not pets. People brought them to ask a god for help. A wish, a thanks, a small deal made in faith. Boxes stack with little ibis beaks painted on the lids. Another row shows falcons with sharp eyes. Dogs too. Bulls in huge stone chests rest in their own halls. The Serapeum is near. Those bulls were sacred in life and grand in death. That is a fact you can lean on. The floor there feels like thunder even when you whisper. A caretaker shows an X-ray of a cat bundle on a paper sheet. You can see small bones. You can also see, in some, only a stick with a feather or just a bit of cloth and resin. Not everyone in the market was honest. A quirky truth. Some mummies were mostly packaging. The prayers were still honest. The cat gives those fakes a long look and files a complaint with the universe. Joke 3. You step into another chamber and see jars shaped like fish. You see a long case for a crocodile, lean and dark. The god Sobek smiles with teeth like white beans. You remember the curse line about snakes and crocodiles. You respect the door even more now. Historians still argue whether some of these animal mummies were exact votives for a person's private prayer, or part of big temple drives, where priests raised animals for offerings in bulk. The numbers are enormous. Millions of ibises, piles of cats, rows of little hawks. The truth may be both, private and public, love and duty. It is a lot of care wrapped in linen either way. You ride your thought line back up the river to Thebes. Night folds over the ridge again. The cat bumps your leg as if to say, "Welcome back." You look over the worker slope one more time. A tiny door glows with a lamp for a moment. Someone inside may be writing a new letter to the dead. "Please help with the bread. Please bless the baby." You hope the reply is kind. At the edge of the Valley of the Queens, a low wall holds a row of small jars. Flowers sit in them, dry now but still bright. Cornflower blue, lotus white, poppy red. A guard set them there for a feast day. He will take them away when the wind gets rough. For now they glow. Your shoulders loosen. You think of the queens, the workers, and the animals wrapped with care. You think of the bands of blue and gold. You think of the funny ostrika with cats in dresses and mice pouring wine. You think of the quiet law that runs under it all. Keep the name, feed the soul, call the heart to be light. You rub your hands together for warmth and remember the rule. No touching. You smile at how that rule has become a comfort, too. It means the room will still be here in the morning. It means the paint will still whisper. It means the cones will still tilt. It means the cat will still own every threshold with a soft little paw. The stars over the ridge look like the ceiling you left behind. Your breath makes a small cloud. The night settles again. You listen for a harp you cannot see. You hear the faint beat of your own heart instead. That is enough for now. You turn toward the last bend, ready to walk where old stories and new tools share the same dust. You round the bend and walk into a small city of tripods. Poles blink with tiny lights. A generator hums like a sleepy bee. Tape measures hang from belts. A drone lifts off and buzzes, then tilts and sails the ridge. The cat threads between boots and cables, cool as a VIP on a red carpet. A woman kneels by a doorway and brushes stone with a soft hand. She holds a notebook on her knee. Every move earns a line. A man sets a small square card by a shard. The card has black and white blocks. It tells the camera the size. Click, another shot. Click. The room freezes in pixels. Then it breathes again. No one shouts. Tools tap like rain on a window. A conservator whispers to a wall. She presses a thin tissue on a flake of paint and pats it with a tiny brush dipped in clear glue. The flake settles back down and decides to stay. You smile. The no-touching rule gets an upgrade. Touch only to save. A plain fact hums under the noise. In 1922, Howard Carter broke through a sealed door, peered in, and saw wonderful things. That small tomb, KV-62, changed the world's focus. Gold, wood, linen, names, scents, all waiting. The fame has not cooled yet. You duck under a rope and step near a tripod. Carries a laser scanner. The machine whirs. A screen shows dots connecting into walls and curves. The room becomes a cloud of points. A model builds as you watch. The scanner blinks like it is thinking. It is not. The people are the thinkers. They decide where to point. They determine what the dots mean. Joke 1. A researcher waves you over. He aims a purple light at a painted star. The star glows dull. The blue around it gives off a tiny red wink. You remember the trick of Egyptian blue. Cameras see the secret blush. That hidden high still works under new light. Old paint loves new toys. A box nearby holds rulers, brushes, tape, and muffin tins. Quirky but true. Small finds sit safely in the cups, each with its own label. A shard sleeps in row B, cup 3. A seed in row B, cup 4. Dots and cups keep chaos in line. The cat peeks in row B, cup 5, and gets told no by 3 people at once. A team sets up ground radar on a sled. They pull it over a flat patch. The screen displays stripes and dark shapes, resembling fish bones. A tech point, a cavity, a pipe, a rock. They frown and nod and frown again. Historians still argue whether the north wall of Tutankhamun's burial chamber hides a room or hides only harder stone, while early scans said, maybe, and later ones said, no. The wall stays cool either way. Secrets do not mind if we wait. Another group gathers around a photo stand. They shoot rows of pictures from every angle. Later, they will stitch them into a tight 3D skin. Every chip and scratch will sit in the model. You can zoom in and count tool marks. You can zoom out and see the whole plan. It is like being a bird and an ant on the same day. A man in a wide hat points to the far ridge. He tells you, quietly and proudly, that the most enormous tomb here, KV5, belonged to the sons of Ramesses II. It holds more than 100 chambers so far. That is a strong fact. You imagine the march of boys and men, their names carved in corners, the family map hiding under your feet. The day warms. A field lab clinks with glass and metal. Inside, a tiny CT machine hums. A bundle the size of a loaf of bread slides through. The screen shows bones like pale thread. It is a falcon following scan. The screen shows only sticks and linen in the shape of a cat. A fake. You remember the X-ray you saw in the animal tunnels, the mix of real and not. People then were people now. Markets blur lines. Here is a sharp, modern line. In 2010, labs ran DNA tests and CT scans on royal mummies. They found malaria in Tutankhamun and a broken leg. Those are solid notes. Historians still argue whether that break or the sickness or something in his body's build took him in the end. The debate stays polite. The dead do not answer. The desert smiles. You follow a ranger past a fence to a quiet tomb front. A soft pad under your boots protects the path. He shows you a glass box with a portable X-ray. They can see inside jars without unsealing them. They can test a crumb of linen and learn the plant it came from. They can sniff the air in a jar with a tiny tube and catch a ghost of wine or incense. The cat sniffs the ranger's shoe. That test says, dust with a hint of lizard. A conservator tells you a small, sweet trick. When bugs sneak into baskets or cloth, they seal the finds in big bags and put them in a freezer for a week. Cold saves the day. No flame, no sprays, just winter in a box. You file that with the muffin tins, clever and kind winds. You walk to a low shelter of wood slats. A fan pushes warm air out of a chamber. Climate control keeps paint calm. Light here is soft and golden. The walls look awake but relaxed, like you after a nap. A guard checks a tiny meter on the wall. He nods. Numbers can be tender too. Old hunches wander by. A man points to a blank patch of cliff and whispers a guess. A path, a line of old chips, a color change in the rock. He thinks a door hides there. He will test in winter, when the light is kind and the air is dry. You believe him a little. The valley trains you to. It taught you about the delete key. It taught you about patience traps. It taught you that walls can lie and tell the truth at the same time. You see a school group near the path. The guide speaks slowly. He tells them about Carter and his lantern. He tells them about workers in the place of truth. He says, the people who built this also had jokes. He holds up a photo of a mouse pouring wine for a lion. The kids laugh. The cat blinks, pretends the mouse photo is fake news. Joke 2. A researcher sets a little microphone in a room and claps. The echo answers with a round OM. He writes down a number. He thinks sound-shaped parts of the plan. He tests. He listens. He claps again. A bat flits by and gives him a look peer review from the ceiling. Joke 3. You lean on a rail and watch the drone glide back. It lands like a big bug. A tech catches it and swaps a battery. The beep of a total station calls out points. A scribe, now with a tablet instead of a papyrus, taps boxes and smiles. New tools, same job. Write what the world says. Keep the names. Hold the edges. A soft debate brushes your ear. Historians still argue whether we should open every sealed space today or leave some for the future, when kinder tools and steadier hands may keep us safer. You look at the rope in front of you. You feel okay behind it. Patience is not passive. It is a choice. The sun slides down the ridge. The generator coughs and stops. The valley holds its breath. The team locks boxes, covers the frames, and smooths the sand. Footprints fade. Your eye tracks them anyway. The cat jumps onto your shoulder and rides like a captain. You turn toward the dark path you know now by heart. The wind lifts and smells like thyme and stone. Somewhere, a harp that is not there plays a one-note song. You do not need proof to hear it. You carry the night map in your chest. Gold flashes, then fades. Blue glows, then winks. A jackal sits and watches 9 bows. A feather waits for a heart. The boat moves on. Let the night soften around you now, as the hum of the gear fades and the hush of the cliffs settles back into place. And picture the river again, dark and slow and kind, slipping past palms and gardens and the small lamps of homes that breathe in time with the water. The path you walked has grown smooth in memory, the steps down and the steps up blending into one gentle line, and the cat that led you seems heavier now, like a warm blanket draped across your ankles, steady in its little purr, particular in its calm. You can still feel the cool rooms if you want to, the blue ceilings and the tiny stars, the soft lines that guide a hand, the names that speak without sound, and you can let them dim too, if that feels better, like closing a book after the last page, knowing the story sits safe inside, waiting for you when morning is ready. The doors have been set back where they belong. The paint is breathing easy, the seals are quiet again, and the valley has switched off the day like a lamp pulled by a string. One click, one sigh, nothing sharp. It is safe to rest because the work is careful now, the ropes are firm, and the maps are clear. The people who love these rooms will be back with kind hands and soft brushes when the sun is cool. And until then, it is only wind and sand and the small sounds of night, a fox far away, a bat changing places, a little ripple in a jar where the air is finding its level and falling still. If your mind wanders, let it wander only as far as the boat, and let it drift where the moon lays down its silver path, smooth as a ribbon, and step lightly onto it as if it is a floor that remembers you, and then float without holding the rail, without checking the time, without reaching for anything, just letting the incredible air slide over your face. At the same time, the shorelines blur and the last bright points soften into a soft gray, and softer still, until there is only breath, and the river's quiet sound, and the faintest trace of gold under your eyelids, warming and warming, and fading again. You are here, and you are held, and the night is kind.